This is take 2 of me trying to create a state of the collection update in 2025. I realised the last one that I tried to shoot just before Dubai Watch Week was well over an hour, and let's be honest, people don't care about all the little details of everything. They just want to see the watches I picked up and nothing else. First off, Dubai Watch Week was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much to everyone who came up to me, had a chat. It was the best possible week I could have ever envisaged, and I'm buzzing to go back year after next. Right, let's get into it. So actually, first of all, what's on my wrist? I'm wearing my 1803 Rolex Day Date 36. It's a linen Sigma dial. What's amazing is all of the watches that I have are about to go back to the bank, but seeing as I've just got back from Dubai, it's very rare they're all in one place. So I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to do it. Now, in the last version of this video that I ended up deleting in panic on the plane back from Dubai, I tried to go through things in chronological order, and I spoke quite a lot about each piece that I picked up and why I did it. Again, I don't think you guys really care about that. You just want to see what I've got and we'll rattle through. So I've gone for sections instead. I also recognized when I was putting these kind of areas together on the table with different sections of what I've collected, the fact I have to do sections of what I picked up this year probably demonstrates that I've picked up too many watches. I remember last year when I made a kind of update video on what I picked up in 2024, I said that you get to a certain point of the year and you just presume that that's you done, and then things come in. This is me to a T with this video. I think I counted that I picked up 20 watches this year. Not all of them are on here. Some of them are like little pieces for my wife, but the majority of those came in the last couple of months, really, of 2025. Also wanted to note that when I did this video last year, quite a few people were saying, you need to pick up some G-Shock, or, why don't you consider getting a Tudor? And first of all, any comment is absolutely welcome, and thank you for that. But just to reiterate, this is not my full collection. This is literally just for me, mainly, every year to keep tabs on what has left the collection and what's come in. So this is just a portion of my overall collection. If you want to see a complete state of the collection video, there are a couple that I've done with other YouTubers, primarily Adrian Barker and Jack. I did a full, 3/4 full collection video with him probably 18 months ago now, actually. That's over on his YouTube channel. However, what I would say is since then, my collection has completely changed, and probably 25 things have come in and several things have left. So maybe it is time that I do another full state of the collection video. Okay, let's hop into it. Just going to quickly mention what left the collection before jumping into what came in. Really quickly, the Oris Aquis Diamond left the collection. I got it for kind of Christmas time. I did a couple of shows in December last year, and I thought it was the perfect festive Christmas watch. I enjoyed it, but it was just a little bit too loud for me, so that left the collection. Also, the Zenith Chronomaster, which still I genuinely feel is an incredible watch and still brilliant value for money. I just realized I wasn't wearing it as much as I thought I would, and after a couple of months, that kind of became a safe dweller, so that left as well. And finally, the big thing that left my collection this year was my first ever watch, which was my Date Submariner from 2016, I believe. I'll briefly get into why I sold that when I talk about what replaced it in this collection. So let's go. So the first section I want to quickly run through is my sentimental section. A lot of these watches on the table are very sentimental, but this year there are a couple of moments that really stood out to me and kind of reaffirmed again why I love this watch community so much. So the first watch that I actually picked up this year was my Tissot PRX Powermatic 80. Now, this is a watch that I'd never really thought about picking up. Obviously, I know a lot about the PRX, seen them everywhere. I think they're clearly the most successful line that Tissot have done in recent years, maybe even ever. Anyway, quick story. I picked this watch up in Singapore, and it was a very, very lovely gift from my very good friend Servo, and also Sean as well. We did a little performance together in Singapore, and they very generously gifted me this watch at the end of the evening. And it's got my name kind of stamped on the side. It's got Singapore 25. It will always remind me of Singapore and my lovely mates Servo and Sean. So that's watch number one. The next watch is a watch that I, again, was aware of, but never had intended to pick up kind of for myself at this point in time anyway. And I'm in a WhatsApp group where loads of people are constantly messaging and, you know, talking about what they picked up and what they think about certain models. And then one day, a lovely chap called Doug posted a picture of this in the WhatsApp group. It's a Tag Heuer 2000. I'm not sure of the age. I think probably mid to late 90s. Still got the tritium dial, so obviously before 97, I think. He posted a picture of this and said, "Looking to move this on," and I was like, "Yeah, great. Like, what? You know, I'm down. Cool." And we got into a conversation about it, and he said, "Well, I was given this watch 20 years ago by a very good friend, and he told me to wear it for 20 years and then move it on to someone else to look after for 20 years. I'm now that person." And I was taken aback when he said he didn't want any money for it. So I'm now the custodian of this Tag Heuer 2000. I think every so often it's important to think about why I collect watches. And for me, it truly is the people. And Doug reaffirmed that to me. I met Doug for the first time this week in Dubai Watch Week, and it was amazing to put a face to the name. And this watch will always make me think of Doug. The last watch in this sentimental section, as I've kind of named it, is G10 from CWC. Now, I was going through a bit of a tritium phase. I guess I still am. And I've got a good friend, Jonathan, who works at a place called Antique Watch Co., which is in Farringdon, London. I'm pretty sure they've been in business there for 40 years. His dad started the business and Jonathan's taken over now. Historically, they've done servicing, repairs, but they also now are moving more into buying and selling. And what I love about what they specialize in is they do have some modern pieces, but predominantly it's vintage. I mean, hence the name Antique Watch Co. But also they do a lot of military vintage pieces, which, for those who know, I'm a big fan of the Dirty Dozen watches, pilots' watches, anything kind of military. Jonathan is my absolute go-to when I have a question on something. He knew I was on the hunt for a tritium dial. Well, I wanted a vintage tritium dial, obviously, kind of comes with the territory, but he said, well, what about this? Because this is only from 2006 or 7, I think. Navy issue, I believe. Even though this watch is from 2007, CWC continued to use the tritium dials until they ran out. So you're kind of getting can we still say that 2007 is modern? I think so. You can still get a modern watch with a genuine tritium dial at an accessible price point. The most recent pickups, actually, oddly, I just spent 3 weeks in Japan, which was an absolute dream come true. My wife and I love Japan more than maybe anywhere else in the world, and it's just become this place that continuously pulls us back, and we're already trying to plan an excuse to go back to Japan in 2026. I had the desire to pick up really a 16570 in Japan, and it just kind of didn't really work out. And in some ways I'm glad, because the 3 watches that I ended up coming away with from Japan, well, 2 of them at least, scream exactly what you want to pick up when you go to Japan. The first being my Grand Seiko White Birch. I've already got a spring drive in my collection, but the fact that this is steel sets it apart. For me, I've got the Shunbun in titanium. The dials are I guess in some lights it's a similar kind of shade, but just different enough for me to justify owning two. This watch was really my daily in Japan. I love that I can, even though with the Zaratsu polishing, I do kind of use my Grand Seikos as more tooly than dressy watches because they have the specifications to match that. Don't cancel me when I put it on a NATO at some point. Pickup number 2 was the complete other end of the spectrum with Grand Seiko. This is Grand Seiko reference number 43999. Now, this is the second Grand Seiko that was made, and what I love about this, the reason I picked this up, was this was the first Grand Seiko to feature a complication, being the date window. I found a lovely little shop in Hiroshima, and this watch really kind of epitomizes how I approach watch collecting at the moment. I think I'm not going to get something, or I'm going to get something in particular. I fail getting said item, I give up, and then something comes along. This came along for me. The third watch that I picked up in Japan is this IWC. Now, it's funny that a watch can be sold to me on the basis of the bracelet, and that's what happened with this. Yeah, I love the case. I've got no other watches in my collection really with this case shape. I don't have any other IWC, which was a massive selling point for me. But the original bracelet and original buckle is really what got this over the line for me. It's no secret that I'm a big fan of Christopher Ward. I picked up a few this year. I mean, ever since I created my bel canto with Christopher Ward, I've just been intrigued with what the company's doing. Also, the pace at which they release stuff is probably a little bit divisive for some, but for me, I love the enthusiasm in the brand, the reluctancy to sit back for years and years and years and just let things like the bel canto dominate for forever. They're pushing kind of new boundaries and frontiers. And yeah, they may not get it right every time, but they often do. And where I think they did get it right is with this, which is the Loco. This came out in the summer of this year. This is it's listed as black dial, but I would really call it like a slate grey dial maybe. And I've paired it on the it's a Christopher Ward white rubber strap. What makes this watch particularly interesting in my opinion is, well, two things. You've got the open balance wheel, which I don't know where you'd get an open balance wheel visible like this for the price point. And secondly, there's a 6-day power reserve. So this is a hand wound movement, but the twin barrels in the back mean that you can wind it once a week almost. Straight into the second, which in some ways has a lot of design cues when compared to the Loco, but this came first. Obviously, this is the Christopher Ward 36mm 12 and in the pink dial. Now, the main reason that I picked this up is my Shunbun Grand Seiko only looks pink enough, in my opinion, under certain lights. This looks the pink that I want all the time. I've got it on a Deluxe CTS strap, which dropped only a few weeks ago, actually. And this became my summer watch after the Loco for a brief time when we still were clinging on to summer. The last Christopher Ward that I picked up was something that actually only dropped 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is the Jump Hour. I believe it's the Jump Hour Mark 5. Again, from Christopher Ward. It comes in 2 dial combinations, but I think the blue is the one that I'm pulled to more. I like the dimensions of this. I'm pretty sure, am I going to guess it? I'm guessing it's like 38. And now if it's wrong, then don't at me. Christopher Ward partnered with Fears on the Fears Jump Hour for the British Watchmakers Alliance. And you can obviously see some similarities between those two. Now we're going to jump to the two Rolex that I picked up this year. I mentioned at the start that I sold my first watch, which was a Rolex Submariner. I thought that would hurt more than it did, and actually it's been 3 or 4 months and I'm feeling really good about it. I sold my Submariner. Well, actually I traded it kind of direct value wise for this, which is my Rolex 16753, which is known as it's not known as, it is the original root beer. These are kind of known as nipple dials, and obviously its Pepsi sibling gets more love, more of the attention in the watch space than this does. But I think this is nicknamed like the Clint Eastwood. Look, I know that the bezel is not going to be to everyone's taste, but for me, it was, it allowed me to access this reference at a reasonable price point because of the condition of the watch. But I picked it up from a good dealer friend in America, and this has actually been, I would say, my most worn watch of 2025. The second Rolex that I picked up this year is if you know anything about me and my watch collecting journey, you know that the 1655, the OG Explorer 2 from Rolex, is my all-time goal, all-time grail. Explorer 2 is my favorite line from Rolex, easy by a country mile. 1655 is a watch that I always knew that I'd get hands on with, but I just didn't know when. And in typical Subdial fashion, it happened. For those who don't know, Subdial is a website that does weekly drops. And I love it because it almost feels like, it takes me back to when I was really into collecting shoes, and you'd have like a window where you'd get an email and it'd be like, it's dropped, it's live. And that happens every Thursday at 11 o'clock in the UK. And Subdial kind of focus on, I would argue, like collector's pieces. They do have modern stuff too, but they go really vintage. And just trust me, you will not. I'm not getting paid to say this, by the way. This is not an ad, but it is an ad. I'm advising you to do it, but it's not an advertisement. And when this came on the drop, this 1655, I had to make it happen. What is amazing about this watch is, so the origins of this watch, I'm sure a lot of people know, but if you don't, it's for cave exploration, which is called splunking, which is something that sounds naughtier than it is. I always thought, even though this is my favorite watch of all time, and I swear I've watched hundreds of hours of videos on these, I must have zoned out at several points, because I always thought that what I'm going to say now is a GMT hand. It's not a GMT hand. It's actually a day and night indicator. I absolutely love this watch. This is not one of those scenarios where like you have your grail and then the grail gets boring. Every time I look at this watch, I think this is quintessentially Rolex for me. It's just a made for purpose, real tooly watch. And for me, that's what Rolex, my favorite Rolex are. And I'd love to see a reintroduction of, can you imagine if Rolex brought back a modern version of the 1655? Take my money. Let's do the Timex section. So Timex is a brand, obviously, that everyone, I imagine that name recognition is extremely high with Timex. However, if it's anything like how I was with them, I presumed there's not really anything from their catalogue that I would pull the trigger on, until I stumbled upon I am the proof that Instagram ads work, because this was advertised on my Instagram, on my Explore page. I can't remember what this is even called, but I think it's like a 1970, it might be actually the 1970 reissue. And when I saw this, I saw, wow, okay, I love this aesthetically. And I'm pretty sure it was like 180 quid. It's something that aesthetically I really like. It doesn't get too much wrist time, but I think coming into 2026, it will do. My wife saw and was like, hey, I want one. She didn't get one, she actually got 3. One of them's in the post now. But her most worn watch of 2025 is this. It's a stretchy bracelet. Again, it's from that same, I think they've got like a section on their website, and it's something like vintage reissue or just reissue or vintage inspired, or, and they've got loads of vintage inspired modern watches. And again, this is under 200 quid, quartz, kind of looks Landwellery, man. Kind of looks, or well, maybe oyster quartz with that almost like GMT Master. They do the solid gold GMT Master Rolex, the bezel kind of makes you think of that, and it's got that like fake tiger's eye dial, which actually it's a lovely watch. And she was wearing this in Japan, and a couple of watch people saw it and really liked it. There's a really amazing feature with this where it's the most useful on the fly bracelet adjuster I've ever seen, and I won't be able to do it now, but you basically you can just slide these links out and take them out or add them in instantly. I don't think you need a tool for it. No, I don't think you do. You just pull it out and twist and stuff. She wears this watch more than anything else, which I love, and it just shows that, yeah, you can buy Rolex, you can buy Grand Seiko, she's got Cartier, but when she likes something, she'll wear it irrespective of the price. And Timex is a brand that I imagine most people maybe haven't looked at recently. I would urge you to go back now and look at some of the stuff they do, because I think they're onto a winner with stuff like this. We'll quickly just rattle off 2 Timex together. When I was ordering my wife's watch, I saw that Timex did a Pan Am collaboration. And look, it's very kind of IWC-esque, but I anything with Pan Am, like I say, I'm kind of interested in. It's got the Pan Am markings on the underside of the strap. It actually came in a really cool box as well that had like Pan Am like branding on it. This is a GMT as well, which, I mean, obviously you can't do a partnership with Pan Am and not put a GMT hand on, right? This is the kind of thing that it will not, and look at the case back as well, I've got the Pan Am on the back there. This will not see much wrist time, and maybe it was a bit of an impulse thing, but this is the first time I've looked at it in a few weeks, and I still really like it. It's quartz, so I can just leave it in the safe, and if there's a time where I want to pick it out of the safe and just wear it, I can wear it. And then the last Timex is this. My wife saw this and absolutely loved it. This is the Timex / Peanuts collection. Is it called that Marlin collection? And this is automatic, actually. You've got who even is that? Is that Peanut? Yeah, Peanuts on the strap. And my wife just saw this and thought, this is really, really cute. This is the kind of thing that my wife will wear very, very rarely, but when she does, she finds it really fun. And there's stuff like that I think Timex is worth a look at if you've got partners who are into wearing watches but not particularly fussed about spending, thousands of pounds on cost certified movements and all that stuff. I think Timex is a really, really good place to look at. We'll do the last section. It's worth mentioning this as well. This is the Newmark 6BB chronograph, quartz chronograph. Newmark are a company that have been around for a long time. I think since the 1870s, but I may have just got that wrong there. And they were very successful, and then kind of disappeared slightly, and then were bought back by one of the original family member descendants, which I think is always great when that stuff happens. This is not the original strap that this Newmark came on, but I took this watch to Iceland actually with Harrison Brown, who also works with Chisholm Hunter, and I took several watches, but this just kind of was, in a way, what I wore most. It was like the star of the show, and I think it's because it's a water resistant, 10 bar water resistant, so like you can genuinely swim in it. 10 bar water resistant quartz chronograph that feels really tooly and rugged and outdoorsy, and it will definitely be staying in the collection for those Lake District getaways that I like to do. The last section is probably like the biggest entry into brand that I've had this year. Yeah, okay, I picked up an IWC for the first time this year. like obviously Timex in a big way with my wife. But other than that, this brand, I think, is one that I see myself going further with. And it's a brand called Raymond Weil, which, and again, this isn't an ad, I'm just saying how I feel. They are a brand that kind of similarly to how I viewed Timex, were a brand that again, high name recognition, but it was more from an airport or shopping centre shop display where there was several brands all together. And I had kind of dismissed them maybe as being a brand that I just didn't have a desire to invest in. They do a lot of quartz stuff, which again has its place. And I've got quartz on the table. I'm not anti quartz, but just for where I'm at the moment, it wasn't. There was never an offering that I thought was appealing to me until the Freelancer Complete Calendar. This watch, I've got one thing I would comment about this watch that I'm not a fan of, but it's a very small thing that could easily be rectified. For the money to get a automatic complete calendar with moon phase and date on a bracelet that feels this good, that's not huge, with these dimensions, 40 mil, where else do you go? And bear in mind, automatic, Swiss made. Where do you go? I don't know where you go. This watch has been everywhere with me. And also to add to that, 10 bar water resistance, screw down crown. Where do you go to get better value for money there? We can't always afford to get insane complete calendars from Holy Trinity. In fact, I never can. So when something like this comes along, I'm interested. And they did a YouTube advert that I kept on get given fed every time I was watching anything watch related. And in the end, I was like, okay, I'll try and have a look at one. Because I kind of did this thing that I imagine a lot of people do. I wonder if you do this. You see adverts, you see renders, you see videos, and with all the bells and whistles and smoke and mirrors and stuff, and you think that watch must actually feel like it's going to fall apart. It's been assembled really cheaply. It actually felt better than I thought it would, which is amazing. And I think the biggest challenge for Raymond Weil is to just kind of do what I've advised you to do, which is get hands-on with it. Because I guarantee if you try this on, you will not say it's a rubbish watch. I mentioned that I had one caveat with what I would change about this watch, and that would simply be a micro adjuster. I think for the price of this watch, having a micro adjustment on the bracelet would just like make it like an endgame watch for me. It would just be the perfect, complicated, affordable timepiece if you just added on that micro adjustment. I was really, really impressed. So when they brought out their Takata Heritage line, I was optimistic in a way that perhaps I wouldn't have been if I hadn't seen the Freelancer Complete Calendar. Now, look, I'm an absolute sucker for Universal Genève, like white shadows, ellipses from UG, and then obviously Patek. So when this came along, we don't need to mess around here. We know what this is meant to look like. But it's that excited me, because it's not just a quartz. It's manual wound, so you've got that lovely thin profile. And as I say, when this came out, I was like, this is definitely worth a look. They do two, and well, no, they don't do two. They do two sizes, but there's several dial and bezel configurements and straps that you can do. I am really excited to see what they're going to be doing next year. And this is not an ad, they are not paying me. But I stand by this watch. Good friend of mine who's a very successful watch content creator saw this. I think he thought it would maybe not be quite to the level that I've been banging on about. And he said it's great. it's and it is. I think you really need to get hands on with this as well. That's the Takata Heritage, and my wife loved it so much that she picked up a little small blingier one. I think if I was going to nitpick with this in particular, this is quartz, so the smaller size, which one could argue the one catered towards women perhaps. Even though I do wear it, it fits lovely. This is quartz, which that's fine in itself. I think for me, the bracelet is perhaps, and again, it's nice and shiny, and there'll be a lot of people that love that. I think just for me personally, I prefer these on the leather. But my wife, as I say, wore this. I very quickly stole it from her. So this is sized to me. But can you imagine that with like a deep maroon leather strap? And then for me, that would be it's already in my circulation, but it would be probably higher at the top of my rotation, shall we say. There's actually 19 watches on the table, which is a hell of a lot more than I thought I'd picked up and that I would pick up. And it just goes to show you can plan certain things and directions, and it can change. I guess the final parting question is, what do I see happening in 2026? I think that letting my first watch go earlier this year may be an indication of the floodgates starting to edge open. There's a couple of things that have been safe dwellers in the bank for months that I haven't worn. And actually, oddly, this could be on the chopping block, my 1803. I love this watch. It's stunning, but it sits in the bank. I could get something else quite exciting for that. Maybe, well, ideally I'd try and get a 16550, but there's no way I'll be able to afford that trading in this. But I could move a few things and see where that goes. I still need to scratch the Neo Vintage Explorer 2 itch, which, so like 16570 if the tritium is nice and creamy. Again, I mentioned maybe an original first generation Grand Seiko in yellow gold would be another tempting proposition if I can get back to Japan next year and they're somewhat affordable. I'm still an absolute sucker for a tri-compacts from UG. I fear that with it coming back through Breitling and being positioned as the luxury arm of UG, Breitling, Galet, there's a chance that the pre-owned market for Universal Genève will just continue to climb, and it's already kind of unobtainable for me at the moment, like a yellow gold tri-compacts. That's always going to be a thing in my head that I'm wanting, but if I can't do that, then there's also a couple of areas like an AP Bamboo, AP Cobra, which I was looking at in Japan. One wasn't available. I'd still consider the pole router, but also alongside the 1655 as a grail was always like an annual calendar, Neo Vintage annual calendar, or like mid 80s to early 90s annual calendar from either AP or Patek. Vacheron do a really, really nice 36 mil that I posted on my watch Instagram from Dubai. Like, a few companies did it, like Vacheron, AP, Patek, and Chopard. They're actually oddly like relatively affordable in comparison to other things. I'd look at that. But then if I was to go more modern, like I fear I'm going to get another Grand Seiko modern. Which one? I don't know. I don't know when. I maybe a darker dial Grand Seiko to contrast against the three Grand Seikos I have, being white, silver, and very bright pink / silver. And then I guess Raymond Weil as well. I stand by what I said. I'm excited to see what's coming next year. Not sure. I don't know anything, but I would love to see the direction they're going, and I could definitely be tempted. And again, in that same category, Christopher Ward, always, I'm very fortunate. I know a couple of the things that are coming, which is very nice, a little glimpse behind the curtain, and there's one or two things that I'm really excited about. And then the great thing about watches, just to round this out, the You don't know, I don't know. Someone could bring out something at Watches and Wonders or later in the year, and I'm like, okay, damn, I need it. And one of those things could be a Tudor big block. If that comes back, I may have to do that. So thank you so much for watching this 2025 State of the Collection update. I'm both excited and terrified to think what's going to come within the next 12 months. Have a very, very happy holidays, whatever you get up to with your families and watches, and I'll see you next year.